Hey, welcome everybody. Waiting for people to come on board now. As you come on, let us know where you're from and what you want to learn today. Sorry, buddy, we're getting started here in a minute, getting Devin on board. There he is.
Did it work out, Ted?
There you go.
Oh, this is refreshing. How are you?
You never know. Let me make you the presenter. Well, I'll welcome everybody here in a second here. Still got a few more people coming on. It's gotta love the technology, huh?
Technology is incredible.
Yeah.
Truly amazing. Okay,
okay, let's get started.
Yeah, technology's amazing.
And Vicky said the server closed the connection. Nicole can see me mostly frozen, now peering around.
Anyway, hi to everybody.
Let's put Devin on here. Oh, let me just tell the story how we met. We were in Austin, gosh. Is that 3 months ago already? Can you believe it?
Is it really 3 months ago?
It was September.
Oh my gosh, maybe it is 3 months ago. That's frightening.
Yeah. And I met our guest, Devin, here, and he was just telling me what he does for a living. He says he travels, and I met his wife, Morgana, and
yes,
what a great couple. And the last email I sent out this morning was about your 100 weddings, and I'm sure you're going to get in that today, but why don't we start by just telling us a little bit about you and, you know, what got you to this place?
You know, it's a circle. It's a big circuitous sort of experience for me to get where I'm at, and to be quite frank with you, it's sort of amazing. But really, what had happened was I had written a random article, almost on a dare, that got published. It was in a small Italian press. I don't speak any Italian whatsoever, and long story short, when I saw, I received a letter that basically said, you're on page 52 and the Dalai Lama's on page 103. And to me, this was like every drug in the universe. This was the greatest high in the whole world. And all I could think of is that I wanted to write more. And on top of wanting to write more, one of the things that I wanted to do was travel. I begged and pleaded. That's what I did. I found a travel editor, and I think I cornered him, and I think I've probably freaked him out a little bit. And what I ultimately said was, I want to write for you. And his response was, I don't need you at all. And I said, okay, but you know, one day you might be in a bind, and if you are, please think of me. And he said, yeah, listen, I'm very busy. I don't need you. And I think I said it a half a dozen times. One day you'll be in a bind, and if you are, please think of me. And he called me up about 6-8 weeks later and said, you know, I'm in a little bit of a bind. Do you have can you be on a plane to Mexico in 4 days? And I said, how much will it cost me? And he chuckled. He chuckled. He goes, listen, don't worry about it. You know, we'll take care of everything. But what's your passport number? And can you do this? And are you reliable? And you know, fortunately, I had spoken to other people just about writing in general. And he said, the people had told me, like, hit your word counts. If they tell you to write 1,000 words, then it's okay to write 1,002 words. But really, you want to be dead on. Like, if they ask something from you, then just do it. Deliver what they are hoping to get. And long story short, I made sure that my article was as good as it could possibly be. I didn't have any writing degree. I didn't have any journalism credentials, but he was in a bind. And this was an opportunity for me to go see Mexico. And it was literally, like, I didn't even know what was happening. I landed in Mexico, and there was I didn't know how to even get to where I was going. I was sort of like in a panic. And quite literally, there was a guy with like a 3-star hat. He looked like a general, and my name was on it, spelled correctly. And I figured I better just follow that guy. Since then, I've probably taken 100 similar trips all over the world. I've been to 82 countries. The vast majority of them, are through sort of like writing. I've since, and really and I apologize for just kind of going on like this, but one of the things that really opened the door for me is that while I was on this assignment in a small country called St. Lucia in the Caribbean with balmy trees and that kind of thing, and I was walking around in this area called Castries, which is sort of like the main hub where the cruise ships come in. And I was walking around, and this tiny, tiny little St. Lucian woman came up to me and took me by the hand, and she goes, "Shirley thinks you look hungry." And she dragged me down this weird little corridor, and she took me into like her little kiosk. And there was, I mean, no kidding, there was like 100 burners, and there was pots of bubbling ooze, and there was food splattered on the ceiling. And she fixed me a plate that was like a 9 or 10-inch platter, and it was piled like that high. And I don't mind telling you, worst meal I've ever eaten in my life. Completely unedible. I mean, there wasn't enough salt. There wasn't enough. It was just really bad. But Shirley and I talked about life and love and her children and her family, and I was enamored with the notion. Like, I had this eureka moment of, this is why we travel. We travel to meet people of cultures. And I probably started that day thinking I have nothing in common with these people, and came away thinking I have a friend for life. And this woman is like, I have everything in common with her, everything that's important. And I came back and I pitched that same editor who I was writing for. And I said, I want to write about Shirley. I want to write about why we travel. And I gave him, I mean, it was like a serious moment for me. And he said, that sounds fantastic. I need 800 words about the hotel. So I wrote 800 words about that hotel. And at the same time, Shirley sort of haunted me in a good way. And what I ended up doing is, I'm not a technical guy, and I started a website. Mm-hmm. And I started a website, and I kept publishing little articles. Sometimes I didn't even know where to find the articles, so I just wrote something. I wrote something about a trip that I had taken 2 years or 5 years before, and I kept writing. And this was about 12 years ago. And so, long story short, my website, my main travel website is called InTheKnowTraveler.com. And I've learned a lot about. I'm not sure if I'm just supposed to launch into stuff, or if.
No, I was wondering, how do you keep articles to just 800 words? Because that's nothing.
Well, it's changed a lot. I mean, to be quite honest with you, especially online. Like, I grew up reading long form. I love books. And if I took you room to room right now, you'd see big, fat, thick books because I love them. But online, things have changed dramatically. There was, I don't know if this is still true, but as of about 5-6 years ago, when I was doing research on the subject, I discovered that if an article is 1,000 words long, people aren't going to get to the bottom of the page. Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah. So what that means is, my own writing guidelines for In the Know Traveler are in the 500 to 700 word category, which means, I'd rather have you get to the bottom of the page and have a sense of what the writer was trying to express on his experience, rather than somebody reading 300 words and go, oh wow, I can't scroll this far down, I'm gonna stop right there and just go to porn.
I think there was an old Seinfeld episode I saw once where they were talking about People magazine, and the articles are tailored for one visit to the bathroom.
Exactly. So obviously we have to keep it short. I mean, that's my own thing. I prefer to really dive into something, but it's changed a lot, and it's also changed the way we look at journalism. But there's a plus side to that. is that that means we can, in terms of time, instead of crafting a 1,500 word or a 3,500 word story, you get to keep it short, and you get to explore more about, one thing within a column or an article.
Right. Like your dinner with Shirley.
Like my dinner with Shirley. Exactly.
That's an article.
That's an article, and you can find it on In the Know Traveler. And I still, I don't even know if Shirley knows how deeply indebted I am to her, but she's grateful she changed my life. And part of that process was understanding that I could kind of not know about really even writing, not really knowing about technology, and at the same time running websites and moving forward with a business that I can't quite say I understood or even today really all understand, but I've been doing it a long time.
You've had quite a career transition. I was looking at your bio on your website. Low stakes gambler, antique store owner. Nothing to do with writing.
Not a single thing to do with writing. I think part of that was just moxie and youth, and I think once I sort of hit the travel universe, and really when I say travel, I'm talking about the people universe. Mm-hmm. I wanted to promote that. I wanted to promote the idea that we have more in common than we think we do.
Yeah. I didn't write ever before either, and all of a sudden I've written 3 books in the last 4 years. So
and they're not pamphlets, because I have one of your books, and
I had no idea I'd be a writer, but I started writing blog posts like you, just kind of writing short articles. Then the opportunity came along. It's like, wow, I'm a writer. Crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing what a little bit of passion and honesty will do.
Yeah. And if anybody has questions for Devin, go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll get to them. But yeah, so tell us about this 100 wedding thing. I was honored to be at wedding number 16.
You were at wedding number 16 in Austin, Texas, that was presided over by the wonderful Alex Mondosian. Long story short, when I met my wife, she was looking for a person, by her own estimation, was somebody that she could travel the world with. And it didn't matter where we were at, we were going to have an adventure. And so long story short, on many, many levels, beyond just our love for travel, I met this wonderful woman, we got married, and a funny thing happened when we were sort of on our honeymoon in Mexico. I was actually on an assignment. And she and I were walking past sort of that iconic cathedral in Puerto Vallarta. And we had been married just a couple weeks. And I said, almost on a lark, I said to her, why don't we get married in there again, right now? And she said, great. And the woman standing next to us, who was also a travel writing friend, said, well, I'm ordained, not in Mexico, but, and I said, great, here's my ring. And I gave it to her. And we walked to the front of the church, and there was people in there that were mourning. And I'm sure this was probably slightly rude on our part. But my friend started talking about love and her own relationship and our commonalities in terms of goals. And I, at some point, started talking about my love for my wife and what my goals were for her and how I hoped to support her in whatever it is that she wanted to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And she welled up. And even though she was hearing some of these things for the second time, I kind of intuitively understood that for our relationship to continue to thrive, I had to often tell her what she meant to me and what it was that I was hoping to do. And anyway, long story short, after we came back within a few days, I realized, well, we just need to keep doing this. So our goal is 100 weddings in 100 countries. We're totally going to do, as many states as we can visit. Mm-hmm. So far we've been to 12 countries. And well, we've actually traveled to many more than that together, but we've been married so far in 12 countries for a total of 16 times, and a few states have now crept into the picture, including the one that you attended in Austin, right at sunset. It was beautiful.
Well, if I must say so, that was a very emotional wedding. It was a lot of tears. And you guys were like it was your first time getting married. And everybody that was there, we had just met you a couple days before that. We're all like tearing up in the audience.
Well, because I think it was real. I mean, I think that's part of the thing is that, you know, personally, I recognize that I didn't choose this woman for one day. And I think the more I can share with her just how much in love I am with her and how important she is, and trust me, we have fights and squabbles and sometimes even frank exchanges of ideas.
Uh-huh.
You know, the goal is ultimately how do we be in love and how do we be in a relationship? And I don't know if many people teach you how to do that. Like I totally didn't learn that from my family of origin. So I had to be really conscious and mindful because like I know people who like got married in high school and that was it.
Yeah.
And I love that. But when I say, how'd you do it? Nobody really knows because it's almost organic for them. And because I'm approaching 50, you know, I feel as though I've had to put in a lot of work to kind of be the man that I'm hoping to be within the confines of this primary relationship.
And you've written some books about love, right?
I have. I have, and I know that we're guys, and I say this with great love. I have written something about love for women called Women Are Smarter Than Men because, well, because they are. You've been married. How long have you been married?
It'll be 30 years next year. So
yeah, and I remember asking you like, how did you do it? That's that's really a testament.
Yeah, we've been together 35 years now. So like you said, it's been ups and downs. There's, you know, every moment's not perfect, but like now our kids are gone, they're grown, and we're like best friends again. We went through that 25 years of raising the kids, and it's a lot of different stresses through that. But now it's like, we're free. So we want to start traveling more.
Well, you know where you come if you want to get any particular pointers or suggestions on where or how. As a matter of fact, I just got back from Anguilla, so I'm gonna have a shout out to them. Really spectacular, kind of unpopulated, very simple, beautiful Caribbean island.
So Vicki wants to get into the travel writing. She wants to learn more about that.
Go ahead.
Vicki, if you have any specific questions, just type them in the chat. If somebody was thinking about, you know, getting started with this, I know like AWAI has a program for being a travel writer.
Mm-hmm. That's, like I said, that was not the course of action I took. Like there was a point after a handful of years, like I had already been writing professionally and being published in a number of different publications, including like the Huffington Post and trade publications, and a couple in-flight magazines. And so I didn't develop those credentials, and perhaps I should have. I mean, I've later gone back and I have a master's degree in creative writing, so I've certainly put in my time. But in the beginning, I think the best thing that I ever did was just start writing stories. And I get this question a lot of like, how do I start? The answer is you start. And if you haven't been to Anguilla and you haven't been to Madagascar and you haven't been to some exotic, unique place, I guarantee you there's a hot dog stand in your neighborhood that may not have been written about. And literally go over there and say, hi, I want to write an article about you, my most favorite hot dog stand in America.
And they would love that.
They will be thrilled. They will be thrilled to do that. And you know, when we were talking about the free travel part of it, it is. there's a lot of unbelievable perks to this, because you're probably not going to make, like on the surface, like writing travel articles, you're probably not going to make busloads of cash.
Right.
But here's the thing, the travel industry exists, and it's many, many, many times over, billions and billions and billions of dollars. Like as an example, Mexico, and this was about 7 or 8 years ago when I spoke to their director of tourism, they had, I think, something like a $1.2 billion budget. That's money that is spent on festivals and having writers come visit Mexico and write about them, and photographers, and a variety of different engines that help serve the economy of Mexico. I was in Wales about 4 years ago, and Wales is a dot on the map.
Right.
It's a piece of the UK, and it doesn't have huge major metropolises or a major business center. Not to put Wales down at all. I mean, when I went there, I was there for food and scenery, and it's spectacular. But I don't think of it as like a huge independent economy. And they send something like 500 journalists a year to come visit, to have their food, to watch their scenery, to go, to go have
story. It's all about telling that story to everybody when they come on to visit. Nobody wants to read facts. They want to read stories and intrigue.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I had going for me when I started, is that, journalism is definitely about having sort of like a credential bit of information. And I think that's great. Like if you need to know how to walk to the outhouse 4 blocks away, you need to get accurate directions.
Right.
But, one of the things that I did in the No Traveler, and that I continue to do, is I put in first-person articles, because I think at the heart of telling a story is it being personal.
Mm-hmm.
My story with Shirley is about me finding the love of this Caribbean woman over a 3.5-hour lunch. And by the way, I ate almost nothing. Every time I try, every 20 minutes, I try to have a forkful. It was terrible. But the point is, nobody that's listening to the story or who has read that story came away thinking, oh, well, I'll be sure to avoid Shirley. The opposite's true. You're going to go there because she's this wonderful personality, and you should totally spend, I don't remember, I think it was pretty inexpensive. You should totally get a giant plate of her food. And you might.
Yeah. And I love traveling too, because you go around the world and you meet people. It's a different culture, but there's a connection there. Even if you don't speak the same language, there's a connection. We're all human beings. So there's some deep connection that can be made there.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And in many places that you go, especially places you think would be like not a place to go, you'd be amazed at how many of the people just want to know who you are. Like as an example, the United States, for political reasons, in many places has a bad reputation. But the vast majority of the time, the people love Americans. Mm-hmm. And they've understood that the people are not the practices and policies of the government. And so I've been to Malaysia, or pardon me, to countries that are without question predominantly Muslim, and the people just want to hang out. They want to ask you questions. They want to ask you about a McDonald's hamburger.
Right.
And then ultimately we, again, time and time again, we end up talking about family. We talk about things that we love. We talk about, our hopes and dreams, and those things are always the same. They're always the same.
Yeah.
I've spoken with people that on the first sight, I'm thinking, oh, they have some other goal in mind. And that's historically not the case.
So Vicky wants to know, where do you submit your articles, and how do you do that?
I would say just about every magazine has a masthead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yep, you froze up there for a second.
Oh, sorry. The masthead in any magazine will tell you who will have an address, and will tell you who the top cheeses are. And I would recommend you just find somebody who says editor, and you write to that person. And if they have an email address, then you email them a polite bit of information about yourself and the article that you want to write. In every website, there's a page on it, inthenotraveler.com/submission guidelines. And I think there might be a hyphen between submission and guidelines, but that has, that tells you what to do and how to do it. And if you send me an article, I will give it a good read. And I have a bunch, knock wood, I'm knocking wood right now. I have a great team of people who know the kinds of articles that we publish. Again, first person, I think, is much, much better than third person. Far, far superior than we or you, because that assumes things that don't necessarily exist. So, I mean, that's where, and don't question it, just do it. And some people are not going to respond, but some will. And you're not looking to get started. You're not looking for an avalanche of people, selling 50 articles. You're looking to sell one article and one opportunity.
One thing that helped me, I think, is I wrote hundreds of articles over like a 5-year period and put them on my blog. And maybe nobody read most of them, but the fact that I had all this content there, when they started checking me out to write the books, they said, wow, he's written a lot. And my writing improved as you do it. And like anything, keep doing it, you get better. Absolutely.
And you start developing a style because you're writing about stuff that you're into, I'm assuming you wrote stuff largely, the things that interest you, that you're passionate about. And over time, your peeps, your people, they find you.
Yeah. Now they're really boring technical articles. Search engine optimization, how to build a website. It wasn't exciting stuff, but actually it ranked really well in Google, so I got a lot of traffic from it.
And that's the important thing. I mean, I ended up ranking really well in Google over really obscure, weird destinations and places. And sometimes I just get some article about France that would do really well. And again, sometimes it would be some faraway place. Sometimes it would be a well-traveled place, and they would just keep happening over and over again.
Right.
But again, I think you just keep doing it. And this is the part that I think what people really want to know. This is sort of the dangling carrot, is that as you just keep writing these articles, your peeps find you, but so do other people. People who are interested in perhaps hiring you as sort of like a consultant or sort of like a more direct one-on-one kind of person, and me too. And so, really what ultimately happened is that the travel industry came to me.
Yeah, when you're writing the first person, they're getting to know, like, and trust you. You're not just stating facts. It's really about your experience, how you feel, why you like this country, or why you like the food, whatever it is. You're sharing your experience with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what it ultimately does, like on a personal level, I want to inspire you to travel more. I want people who don't have a passport to go, you know what, I should at least try Canada. You know what I mean? Like it's Canada, but it's a different thing, and you're going to have a different experience of the culture. And that's the reason why I still have passion for In the Know Traveler. And one of the reasons why my wife and I are sort of like, 100 countries? I mean, it'll be some work, but we'll do it. We'll do it. We have that sort of never-ending passion. I think In the Know Traveler has 5,000 articles on it.
Wow.
We cover 186 countries around the world.
So what's one country you haven't visited yet that you really want to visit?
Oh.
Or have you visited them all?
You know what? I've been to a lot of places and I'm incredibly blessed. But ironically, I really haven't spent any time in China. I've been to Macau, I've been to Hong Kong, but it's not quite the same thing. So I really want to go to China. Let's see.
So what part of China? Any specific part?
Not really. Not really. You know what I really love doing as a traveler is I want to have conversations. I want I want to shake somebody's hand and have the kind of tea that they drink. And I want to have like, what's their favorite meal? And I want to order that and I want to eat that meal with them, if whatever possible. And that's, that's kind of the fun thing, is that, part of what I do is I have local people show me around their universe.
So you get the insider's tour instead of just the tourist version, which is a very different experience.
Yeah. Now keep in mind, part of my job is to make sure that there is a tourist experience. So if there's a trendy place, if there is a trendy destination, I will go.
So if you came to San Francisco, you'd go to Pier 39 and do the touristy thing.
Of course. And if I was in Seattle, I would go to Pike's Place Market. Right. If I was, if I went to China, I would totally be doing the Great Wall, or the Forbidden City, or one of, the many, many, many other great places. But I would also just want to make sure that I went and had perhaps a bowl of rice just at some corner place. Some of my, I was in Thailand, and one of the best things that I did in Thailand was not only go to the Grand Palace, which is spectacular and you need to go, but literally I took a tuk-tuk into, which is like a horrifying experience all by itself. It's a little 3-wheeled motorized vehicle that sort of goes in between traffic the same way a pachinko ball would hit those little, those little things all the way down before it gets gobbled up at the bottom of the machine. And I went to Chinatown, where it's literally like some guy is just making a pot of something and he's putting it in a bowl for you.
Yeah.
And you may not talk because you may not be able to communicate. I always learn thank you and please. That tends to go a very, very long way when traveling.
Uh-huh.
And then I eat and they want to know what I think because it's their thing.
Even though you can't speak the language, they can tell by your expression.
They can tell by your expression. And, sometimes I couldn't keep my game face on. I thought, oh, how did I get involved in this meal?
So we have a really important question here.
Of course.
What's the best place to get married?
Oh, shoot. The next one. Because then I know how much I love her. I wasn't even planning that. That just came out. The best place that we've gotten married so far, and I didn't even want to do it. We had planned a pretty big trip, and it was just a fun trip for her and I. And I had reached out to contacts that I had all over the world that were like, these are the places we're going. And I said, hey, we're coming. Do you know a shady meadow? And do you know a local hobo who will marry us within the confines of your country? And a couple people were like, oh, we don't have hobos here, or we don't have shady meadows. But most people were like, I think we can do better than that. So we went to San Marino, which is just like a dot. I mean, it's like barely a pin dot on a map. And it's surrounded by Italy, and there's only one road to get in and out. And it's been sort of an autonomous government and country for the last like 2,000 years. And they wrote me after we had already been traveling for a month and said, hey, we heard about you doing this weddings thing. Why don't you come? We'll have you marry in the castle, and we're going to do it medieval style. We're going to do it medieval in the castle, and we will dress you up. And my first reaction was, oh, who cares? I can't be bothered. But my wife's grandmother invented the Renaissance fair.
Oh, wow.
Right? So my wife is all about medieval dress up. And so we went, and it was 40 costume, painsfully recreated clothes on 40 people. They took a wedding ceremony from the Latin Vulgare, and we got married, medieval style. So technically I own my wife, and I can swap her for 30 goats.
I saw the pictures of that wedding. Those are amazing.
It was unbelievable, and they sang and danced for us because the government is actually heavily involved in this recreationist universe, and I mean they are into it and they are down. And you know, like the guy who played my wife's father, like in Giving Her Away, was like, it was abundantly clear if I did not treat my wife well, he was going to kick my. You know, what can I say on your show? It was going to get kicked, Ted. It was going to get kicked. So, and at the end of the whole thing, they knighted me. So I'm according to the country of San Marino, I'm a Cavaliero di San Marino. So how cool is that?
That's awesome.
So part of that travel experience is creating these sort of like families of people, you know, who may come here. They're like, welcome on my couch. And, you know, I will take them to Disneyland or would Walk of Fame or whatever they want to do while they're in Southern California, because you've developed these relationships. You know, we've had, you know, one of our favorite weddings was, because for me, it doesn't have to be a thing. And I remember we were in Montenegro, again, kind of a smaller country right next to Croatia. Not well traveled, except by people who live sort of in that area. Mm-hmm. And we stayed at this hotel, and I was telling the woman behind the counter, she didn't speak English very well, and she was so enthusiastic. And I eventually said to her, you know what? I think you're it. I think you need to marry us. And she burst into tears and ran out of the room. And the following day, she married us, you know, next to a suit of armor in the hotel lobby, and the whole staff hung out with us while we exchanged vows, and they cried with us, and it was, and it's just this, you know, these people that, you know, I think I made a little difference in their world, and they made a huge difference in mine. And this is, again, you know, this goes back to like, I don't know what I did right. I mean, without question, and I'm sure you'll attest to this after having written 3 books and hundreds of blog posts, is that a little bit of hard, consistent work goes it goes a really long way.
It's not even hard work. If you just do it consistently, to crank out 500 or 1,000 words, once you get in the rhythm, it's nothing.
It's nothing.
But it's about doing it a couple times a week, or once a day, or once a week even.
Absolutely. So the woman that wants to travel, and by the way, I have at devingallaudet.com, I give away an ebook that is much more relationship based. However, through that, you'll get that. But if you're interested, any of your readers, if they sign up through that, I'll make sure that they get my essential guide to travel writing. And I think it's about 37 pages that talks about how to write effective travel articles, some of my personal experience and success in travel writing, and some of the rules that we have in place and why we have them in place. So you can write, you know, again, it's 37 pages, so it's not going to be a ton of work, and then you'll have sort of a basis to create your own style and perhaps start your own website.
So you couldn't expect a full-time income on this. It's more of a, hey, let's pay for our vacations and be a travel writer.
Well, yes and no. It depends what you want to do with it. You know, I know some people who make an awful lot of money in the travel industry, not necessarily through their travel writing, but through publishing. Again, I have, at this point, 6 different websites that all have some sort of a travel flair to them. And, you know, it's not only like advertisers come in the form of sponsored posts and anchor text links and straight banner ads and a variety of other traffic to your site. You will be found, and people will be asking you to promote them and promote their things and maybe their destination. And like I said, Mexico, as of a few years ago, it's probably more now, there's, I think, $1.2 billion budget every year. That's real money that they're spending around the world to promote their destination. And I would, without question, argue that if you have a desire to promote travel, there are 206 countries around the world. There are hundreds and hundreds of hotel chains. that are all wanting tourist dollars. And if you come up with a way to promote them,
That's great.
right?
Tap into that, right?
Yeah, there's all kinds of ways. You just have to, like I said, I didn't wait for somebody to give me permission to get the ball rolling. I just started. I didn't even think about the outcome. I just figured I would do this. I loved it. I loved Shirley. I had the inspiration and drive. And because of it, I've done a lot of traveling. Like I said, I just got back from Huila. Before that, my wife and I were married in Laredo, Mexico at, what's the name of that place? Oh, shoot. I'm going to think of their name in a minute because it was absolutely beautiful and spectacular. Villa del Palmar. That was it. It's a great all-inclusive that's maybe about 20 minutes away from the city. And it's, again, we had a beautiful wedding on their brand new golf course.
Well, that's what's cool about the internet. It levels the playing field, because if you just start writing good stories, people are going to find you and they're going to reach out to you, or you can reach out to them and say, here's my website. I've written hundreds of blogs, and they get to know you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that, is it some work? Sure. If you are dedicated and consistent and have doing, you could totally jump into the travel industry in the same way that I did.
Right. It's like anything. If you focus your effort, eventually you're going to get results if you do it consistently. With LinkedIn, I became a LinkedIn expert. I didn't plan that 5 years ago. I just started writing about it.
Right. And my guess is that when you started thinking, I'm going to write about LinkedIn, you probably weren't the expert that you are today. Like, you probably had some good information, some good ideas, and you ran with those ideas and made it a spectacular system to help other people.
Yep. Just start doing it. But Vicky wants to know, do you do your own photography?
Oh, you know what? When I started, one of my very, very first assignments, I was in Mexico, and I had brought along a little, like an Instamatic camera, and I would take pictures of myself like this in front of the pyramid, in front of the cistern, in front of the thing. And the editor of the magazine I was writing for said, do you have any pictures? And I said, well, I'm in them all. And his response was, well, we'll crop you out. And I sold 5 photos for that article. Long story short, I figured, well, maybe I should invest a little bit in photography. And by the way, this is sort of my thinking with everything, is that I had taken a lot of pictures. During this time, I bought a Canon camera. I'm not recommending them per se, but that's what I got. I got sort of like the lower end one. I had sort of like the cheapest kit lens that came along with it, and I took some pictures. And then I was in Japan on assignment, and literally they said, "Oh, Fujitsu is here. He's this brilliant photographer." I just butchered his name, but what I did was, he looked like the photographer guy. Everybody said he was like National Geographic guy. And wherever he went, I would follow him. And I would try to replicate what he was doing, which annoyed the crap out of him. And after about 3 days into the trip, after his annoyance sort of, and by the way, I wasn't even thinking about etiquette or anything. I was just trying to, like, why is he crouching down here? Why is he standing up and pointing the camera down? Why is he changing lenses here or there? And he started looking at my photos, and he didn't speak English. He'd just shake his head, and then he would show me what he did. And you could see, even within the camera, his were far superior. And so I read a couple books. Most importantly, I didn't worry about setting up a shot. I just took a lot of pictures, and little by little, I started understanding the things that I was doing that was working.
Right.
This was true when I was setting up a website. This was true when I was travel writing. This was true when I was getting married to my wife all over the place. This was true when I started taking pictures. And so, I've heard, I'm trying to remember the name. His name is, I want to say probably wrong, but he talks a lot about imperfect action.
Right.
And it's something that, part of the reason why I've done all those different things that you've read in my bio is because I just showed up. I just showed up and had a passion, and I didn't think about failure. And when I think about failure, like what's going to be the results, I tend to do a worse job, and I tend to not actually go after the thing that I am wanting. So, you know, that's sort of my trick to travel writing and taking photos. Yeah.
NLP, they say you're either moving away from fear or you're moving towards your passion.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to look at it as love. Like, I don't think I can be happy and right at the same time. Usually, like when I'm desperate to make myself correct, like if we're arguing and I'm trying to make myself correct, I'm probably never hearing you, and we're not probably bridging distances that we have. So, you know, I try to stay out of those results and just take my pictures and do the best job that I can. And, you know, the doors kind of, they open.
Yeah. It's amazing how you just kind of let go and you don't care about failing. You're just doing it because you like doing it, and great things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I study a lot of religion, specifically mysticism. I don't remember if we talked about that. But I remember hearing a story years and years ago from a guy who was teaching Taoism. He had classes in Southern California, and he talked about how the old villager was getting some water by the stream, and he could see through the brush a tiger, and the tiger was scary. And the tiger started inching towards him. And so he ran, and the tiger chased him to the edge of a cliff. And he saw at the edge of the cliff there was a vine that he could lower himself down. So he started to lower himself down, and he got into about the middle of the vine, and he's hanging. And he looks up, and he sees the tiger looking down at him, baring its claws and teeth and all that kind of thing. And then he looks down as he starts to lower himself further, and then there's another tiger at the bottom. And so he's hanging from this vine, and he's holding on really tight. And just then he sees directly above him, there's two rats that start gnawing on the vine. And his heart's pounding, and he's frightened. And then he looks over at the side of the cliff, and he sees that growing out one of the barren cracks is a little vine and a strawberry. And he reaches out, he swings over, and he reaches out, and he plucks the strawberry, and he pops it in his mouth. And it's delicious. And there's, you know, in the Taoism world, there's a whole lot of different symbolism in there, but it has to do with, like, you know, if you're staying in the present moment and you kind of take the opposite in front of you, it's totally delicious.
Yeah. Don't make it harder than it has to be.
No, I mean, listen, I mean, I think the truth of the matter is, and this was certainly, again, part of that Taoism philosophy, that time is running out. You know what I mean? That's sort of like the symbol of the rats, you know, at the top of the vine. Like, at some point, the sad truth is something's going to get us. Yeah. So in the meantime, let's go have a great life.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So what's next for you besides traveling and getting married?
Traveling and married, you know, because I've been getting married, because I've been studying a lot of philosophy and religion, specifically in terms of partnership, where, again, you know, I didn't have that sensibility where I could just be a great partner. I really had to work at it. And what's happened is I've had a lot of people, especially my wife is Morgana Ray, which some of you know. I know that Ted knows her. And she's been in this universe for quite a while. And she's been saying to me, because I get a lot of calls on a daily basis from people who are looking for more light and love in their life, and I find spiritual solutions on it. And there's a part of me that's like, I don't know if is this a thing? Is this really a business? I don't know, but it seems to be sort of like a door that's opening. I'm going to, like I said, if you go to devingallaudet.com, you'll find more about it. And again, I'll send you some free travel ebooks if you're in the mood. And in the meantime, I'm just going through these open doors. Yeah, we're traveling. I think we're going to get married in Canada next, because we have a plane ticket to use that is going to, I think, Toronto or Vancouver. So one of the two.
Oh, well.
It's going to be fun.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, what do you What do you got coming up?
What do I got coming up?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, there's so much. Like I got so many doors opening in front of me. I've got to really just focus on the right doors at this point. Things have just exploded recently. So
How fantastic is that?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to go through all the doors because I've done that in the past, trying to do everything.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of doing the same thing as well. I mean, the good news is at this stage of the game, sort of my participation in the travel universe is really, it doesn't take a lot of my time because the kinks are worked out. I know how to create the videos. I know how to apply them. I know I know how to do the SEO. I know how to do all that good stuff. And that takes minutes for me. And fortunately, I have a number of people. Matter of fact, I have writers who are traveling on my behalf and writing stories. One guy's going to Antigua and Barbuda in a couple days, which he's very excited about. And so that's kind of what I'm doing. And so I'm just gonna keep letting this again, sort of like bringing in spiritual solutions has been a door that just keeps getting wider for me. So I try to stay out of the results and just let it happen and be honest and try to provide service to people who are looking for help.
That's what I've been doing that for years, and everybody just keeps saying, thank you for being so honest and, forthcoming. You're not trying to scam me or take my money. It's just, I'm providing great results, helping people, which I love doing.
I think on a deeper level, that's always sort of like, for me, that's the goal. I mean, part of the travel thing, like, don't get me wrong, I love me some free travel. I love me opportunity to see the world in a new light in a different way. But really, I think the thing that always keeps that passion and that drive alive, especially when I'm in a layover for 9 hours in Miami or something and I'm stuck in an airport, it's when I hear from people who went to a place they never expected and had a spectacular experience, even though they were afraid of the locals, or they heard bad things, or it wasn't a 5-star hotel or something like that, has always been incredibly rewarding.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be picking your brain because we're going to do a month-long trip for our 30th wedding anniversary next year. So.
Oh, dude, I'll be looking forward to helping you. Whatever you want, I'm glad to support you.
Well, thanks for your time today. And how can people get a hold of you? I guess your wwebsite.
Yeah, devingalante.com. There are links. You can also write me at dg@intheknowtraveler.com. That's INTHEKNOWTRAVEL1LER.com. And that's that's it. You know how to get in touch with me, right?
Yep. I can find you.
Yeah. Good. And I look forward to. I have no doubt that your audience is spectacular. So I'm happy to be of service and help however I can.
Great. Thanks for your time. We'll be talking soon.
All right. Great, Ted. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really grateful.
Okay. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.